You're on.
Okay, so we're gonna go step by step through a transaction. I actually have one that I have to upload, so it's actually perfect for it. Easy as it is, you know, you log in, you're at this spot here, you're just gonna go into transactions. From here, obviously, step by step, you add a transaction. For the most part, we're gonna be doing residential, or some of us have commercial, and this is just a click through, just kind of like I mentioned in the class. It's like a TurboTax type thing. They're asking you questions, you click them correctly, and it's gonna start building your transaction for you. So this is a sale, and let's just go from the start. So let's say you have this client, you have them in the car, you're pretty sure they're gonna be writing an offer here soon. This is what you're gonna do. For me, this transaction is actually seller-wise. So you get a new listing, you wanna throw it in, you're gonna go through the seller. Again, just adding information. Who's the seller? So mine is, oops. And then he's with, oh god, my screen is so tiny. Okay, and then you're gonna be putting in their email, which obviously you can go to your follow-up boss if you need to, or your CRM to get their information. So, I'm just gonna fill everything in. Okay. And obviously, as we mentioned, if it's a client that you've worked with before, possible matches will pop up and you'll just be able to click it. But since I'm importing them first, I'm gonna add the contact, business category, just because these are company. I'm gonna put him, he's a home remodeler. Okay. So I have the seller in. From here, then you just create a new transaction. You can have two people if there's two sellers or whatnot. You could add multiple people. For this case, he's the only signer for that LLC, so I confirm and save. Something's at my butt. Okay. Okay. Kicking the baby now. Okay. So from here, you're just gonna go in and it'll ask you the property address and information. So you're gonna click on property, set property. So it's gonna be what, if it's a listing, it's gonna be what your listing is. Fonts.
Here. I just sent you that in a PDF.
It's not a PDF, it's just the front page.
No, the whole thing. There's multiple.
And then it's 87109.
The brochure is
It's at 295.9. Okay. Setting your property. You can obviously upload a photo. I always suggest do it just because I'm a neat freak and I like to have the photos, but we're not gonna do that right this second. And then you can always edit. So like if something changes with the property or you put it in incorrectly, you can always go in and you can edit the property and change all the information. Next thing you're gonna wanna do, just to get your ducks in a row, is if you have, it's under contract, let's say now we actually have a buyer, we have a buyer's agent and all of that, you're gonna fill in all of the information, and our team for some reason is always attached to everything.
It won't let you go down that either. You have to add everybody.
Because you're attached to the team. So yeah, it's gonna do that. I'm gonna go in and edit some of the things. I don't know why it's adding everybody, but you guys won't have that issue. It's just because we're attached to the team. You can also put, they're gonna require you to put a title agent, a buyer, and a buyer's agent every single time. Otherwise it's gonna stay orange when you're actually in a contract. So you make sure just fill out all your stuff ahead of time. Vendor, this is for you guys if you want to have your information. So if you know what inspector you're going to use, what I don't know, any other vendors you want to add in there, you can just add it. So you're like, okay, who was the inspector for that contract? Oh yeah, it was this person. You have all your information right there. Then this is my favorite part because the dates and info. It's going to show up.
It's also good to, like, if you're using a handyman for it, to put him in there just in case anything down the road comes up. You can say, oh, he worked on this, just for liability reasons. Yep.
So for this, again, on the listing side, when does your listing agreement take effect? You'd have to find that out, but I'm just gonna put random dates. When does it expire? Ownership of the property. So again, this is the type of, what type of property is it? Resale. Before 1978, we do have lead-based paint for this one. And is there a referral? No. So again, it's gonna have you do all of that. What I do is, so you guys have your contract dates, I add dates and I put in my inspections at least in here. So then it's gonna come up on your calendar for everything. So if once you're under contract, you obviously have your dates for your ORW and such, which I need to look down here if I can find it. And then I put that in there just because that way you have it all in one spot.
I can't believe you do that.
Or in order.
Or in order of some sort. I know, it drives me nuts. Okay. They waived inspections. I forgot about that. Okay, so let's just say that they have inspections. I put here, my ORW due, and I put in a specific date. And then it's gonna pop up, and now all of my dates. So this was my listing contract date. I threw it in as the 1st. It was gonna expire October 4th. It's putting it in as the 20th was my ORW is due. So that has everything in there. You're also going to be putting in your closing date, contract date. You can change all of this information all right here. You can also, if you have a TC, I know my mom always asks me, okay, is it vacant or occupied? I always forget to tell her. Well, I can put all the information in here. When she comes in, she can see that it is vacant. And then has the appraisal been done yet? All of that jazz. So everything is here. Lockbox code, if you need a CVS code for your inspectors, you can put all of that stuff in there as well. But you can add, I urge you guys to add whatever dates you need for anything. If you have right now, your lenders, when you need to order your appraisal by, have that sucker in there. I put my ILRs if it's rural properties. I make sure that I know when my surveys are gonna come in, because rural properties, we have a lot of issues with those. So any dates that you need whatsoever, throw in there so that you have it all in one spot. Next thing you're gonna be doing is the documents. So the way you answer your questions in the very beginning is gonna be how you're templated on what's required for the documentation. Carrie, we decided that we're gonna require you guys to upload an ORW. I just had this happen yesterday where one of my buyers has an issue with the roof, and she said, well, the sellers were supposed to fix that. I'm like, well, crap, I don't remember. It was a year and a half ago. I didn't have it because I had changed my CRM. Obviously, we don't have transaction desk from our other stuff, so I was like, crap, I don't know. So it would have been really good for me to be able to go back in and look at my stuff. So that's going to be huge. We also created a new form that I'm going to show you guys that we're going to add, and we're going to be requiring you to use just to save you guys. This is the inspection disclosure. So Carrie had this at RE/MAX before, and it's basically telling you, telling everybody that we urge them to use inspections. We're letting them know that, a home inspector is not a licensed structural engineer, all that. So
it's not a code inspection. I think that's one of the biggest things. People are like, oh, it's not up to code, and you're like, well, it's not a code inspection. So keep that in mind.
Yes. And then we're just saying, make sure that, since they are the ones, ultimately, we can suggest inspectors, but they're the ones ultimately that are choosing them. So we're basically mentioning that they want, the buyers are to seek qualified individuals and such. So we're now actually requiring buyers to initial every page of this, which is a 4-page, but it's gonna help you guys too, because they'll say, well, what does a home inspection cost? What does this cost? What does that cost? You can either send them this ahead of time to look at when they're looking at homes, and when you say what inspections do you want, they can look through, or if they already know what they want, they just have to go through an initial with the contract. But this is gonna save liability big time, because my person was like, well, it was an inspector that you suggested. Okay, well, I suggested them, you didn't have to use them. So that's where we're just kind of going to protect everybody. So they're gonna have to initial all this, and then at the end, they sign it, which was the acceptance of responsibility that we talked about. I just combined them into one. So this is basically saying that they either waive inspections or they take full responsibility determining the property, all that jazz. So we are going to require this. I haven't added it as a required document, but it will be in there on the buying side. But for right now, everything that's in orange is going to be things that are required just on the listing side for right now.
Do we have like a cover sheet?
Yes, we have a cover sheet that I'm going to add into the document section where I'll show you guys where all that stuff is in a little bit, because we have forms that we're going to be adding to. So to add information, I don't know why this thing isn't actually requiring purchase agreement. I haven't done the seller side yet, but
Well, because you're not under contract yet.
No, I
So no, you just have a list.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Here it is. You're correct. See? So now it's yelling at me because I didn't fill in my buyer, my buyer's agent, and my title agent. So that's where your orange things are going to show up. So if you ever go to submit and it doesn't let you submit, check and see if anything's orange because that's probably what's stopping you. Same thing with dates. I started filling them in earlier, but now they're going to require you to ask when was the contract executed, when is it due, all that. So for right now, I'm not going to do that. And then there we go. Yes, here's all my orange. So I'm going to update, I'm going to put in the purchase agreement for right now. Now, as you notice, sometimes when you get things signed, there is the tax levy, there's the lead-based paint, there's the addendum, there's everything attached in one document, and it's a pain in the butt. So from here, we're going to split them. So here is basically all in one right now, and I'm going to upload it. So you can drag and drop as you saw how I did it, or you can click that button and you can find it in your desktop.
For the next document, you should show them how to use the send to your inbox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll do that. This is usually the easiest, fastest way. There's a lot of pages to it, so. Okay. Oh, that's terrifying. Come on. There we go. Okay, so as we mentioned in the class the other day too, they're gonna pull up all the pages that you uploaded. And if I need to look and see what they are, you just click on them and it's gonna show them over here. Obviously, since this is a counter that's not signed, I'm not gonna be using that, but I can tell from what the looks of it, this is the start of my purchase agreement. So you're just gonna go through and you're gonna add, or you can do select all and you can deduct pages, whatever's easiest for you. So I know what my pages look like, so I'm gonna deduct here, and then there's my purchase agreement, and you can show more to see more. And I think it just ends at the last page of the purchase agreement. Yes. So everything's selected, you're gonna create a document. Because we have different sections that are for counters and all that other thing, you wanna make sure that if you're uploading a purchase agreement, it is just the purchase agreement, nothing else in it. It's gonna be easier for us when we go through compliance-wise. And so I'm gonna save and add another. And I actually don't wanna add these two because they aren't the signed ones. And then you're gonna go back to transaction documents. Go back in. Now it's gonna show that it's on file, it's blue, it's good to go. So I'll show you the other way to add, you were saying to email it?
Yeah.
You were saying use the email? Okay, so let's say you don't have it saved on your,
Yeah, the BackAgent
Yes.
email.
so you can either use this address that's down here that's gonna generate for this particular transaction, or if you don't have a transaction set and you wanna send it to yourself, you're gonna go and click in your inbox, and this is gonna be your assigned one. That's kind of like how the broker wolf, you just kind of emailed it to yourself. So I'm gonna copy and paste this, and I'm gonna email a document to myself. And I'm gonna email the,
So and this is great, like if you get the executed document, you can just forward it to your inbox. Really easy way to keep track of everything. Rather than I had to go search for all my documents the other day. It's not fun.
That was a pain. It's just like a
Well, it was a 3-month-old transaction, land transaction. I had about 10 extensions.
waiting for it to come in. There it is. So here's the file that's received. Obviously, you don't have to put a subject in it, and you don't have to type any words in it. You're just attaching the document. And so you're going to click attach to transaction. It's going to ask you which transaction you want to attach it to. This is the one that I was working on. And boom, it's going to pop in just like how I would have if I dragged and dropped it. So I know it's just these 2 pages that I need. It is the signed counter. I always check and make sure it's the correct one. Boom, we're good to go. Create document. And it's going to ask me what document was this. You can search titles. Try not to get specific when you search titles. So I'm just gonna put the word counter. I'm not gonna put counter 1, counter 2, counter to contract, or anything. And here's your counter offer under addendums. So you're gonna put counter offer, and I'm gonna actually change the title. I can actually do it later. You can change it so it's counter 1, counter 2, counter 3, and all that jazz, but for right now I only have the 1 counter. So now I have both on file. So those are 2 ways to bring it in. Also, as I mentioned before, the other one that you can do is uploading by clicking upload file. So I know my France listing agreement should be in here on my drive. Okay, so I don't have it in here. I have a home inspection that I can actually add. Boom, you're adding it this way, it's gonna upload and all that. So that's different ways to get it in. Do you have any questions on those? I'm kind of like flying through it, but. I'm also going to show you what it looks like on our side for compliance when we're going through your documents. So you can see what we see on our end too. It's a long report. So I'm just going to select all, create document, and it's not a listing agreement. It is a home inspection. Boom. Save. Smarts Mickey. All right. Okay, so let's say at the end you're all done. You can also add checklists if you want certain things. You know, if you're doing a listing, add listing to the MLS, add your photos to your MLS. This will kind of give you little guidelines that are just kind of general, and you can manage checklists and add different things to it if you kind of want to have all of your ducks in a row in one spot. Expenses, if you have a TC, or if you told your buyer that you're going to pay for the home $300 towards their home warranty, anything that is going to be taken out of your check aside from the $500 transaction up to 10 transactions would go here. This is stuff that we wouldn't know about, that's just between you and your client, or if you're going to give a credit or something after the fact. This isn't stuff that's going to go, this is going to go to title, but it's not going to go to title before signings. So if it's something that you're crediting your buyer $100 for something, send that to title. That's not going to go here because this is going to be after the fact, after everyone's distributed. This is just after, that's coming out of your check from us, like a TC. In the end, when you're good to submit, this button will pop up. You literally click submit, and then it'll come to us. And then we'll let you know if we're missing something. So I'm gonna go into, I'm trying to I have one that's ready to submit. I think this one's ready. What are they missing? Oh, I don't have that yet. Okay, so I'll show you what it looks like on our end. Okay, so this is what's gonna look like on our end. We're gonna have a new task, and I will literally just be going to his information. He says that he has all his documents in. This is where I'm gonna be able to look and review the transaction. So you guys won't have access to this, but just so you can see what we see on our end. So we had already gone through, we looked at everything. The only thing I kicked back to him was he had his an unsigned counter, the purchase agreement, and an addendum all under purchase agreement. I needed him to separate it, and I needed the one that was an updated signature. So we're going to be going in. We will look through, make sure everything's there, all the initials, everything's where it needs to be. Sneeze.
Watermelon.
Makes you stop sneezing.
Yeah.
You
I
won't
want to
sneeze.
sneeze. Don't watermelon me. Okay. So everything is here, so now I see that, okay, so everything's out of order. So everything's in order. I already went through the signatures are there, and I make sure it ends where it's supposed to end, boom. So now I'm gonna go through, and so if I deny it, it'll send a message to you guys, and it'll say denied, and I'll explain, or Carrie will explain why you denied, and then we'll ask you guys to resend it. If I approve it, I can go approve next. And then I think we put the counter, so then yes, okay. And then I can edit it, change it. And then we'd go through And so as of right now, everything is green. And the FERPTA. So right now I have to figure out how to do this because it's gonna require you guys to upload a FERPTA. We obviously don't have that until closing. So for right now, if it's stopping you from submitting, file for exemption because then it'll stay on here. So we'll know that we need to get it from you. It won't delete totally, but just file for exemption and it'll just go green and then we accept it and you're good to go. So yeah, so then now everything is approved and at this point, all documents are correctly signed and we can approve it and then it's gonna go to title. Try to make sure that all of your paperwork is in at least a couple of days prior to closing because we can't get this done if you close and then it's gonna fund that afternoon. Well, if we don't have the documents, you're not gonna get your check at funding. Try to do this, I always tell people do it 48 hours before you're closing, if possible. If you have extra documents you have to add, you can always add the documents later, but just try to get it approved and ready to go so that we can get your checks in time. Do you have any questions on that so far?
I was just thinking, don't we send a lot of this to title already?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So you could probably CC yourself on it. That would actually be the best way to do it. If you're on the side where yours is the last signature needed for that document, CC your BackAgent. And every single time you have a thing, it'll just send it to your BackAgent and it's just gonna sit there and file it for you and then you can file it once you get in there. That's actually a really good idea. I didn't even think of that. That way you don't have to keep saving it to your desktop, you don't have to save it to your CRM or whatever. It's just gonna go into your system and then you can just drag and drop. I wouldn't send it to yourself unless it's the fully executed version. So don't do like the half counter and send it to you. Just have it so it's the fully executed one. I think it'll work even if you get one from an agent and the attachment's attached and you forward it. I'm pretty sure it'll still attach the document. So if they give you the fully, like if you're the seller and you sent in a counter and they signed the counter and sent it back to you, I think you can forward that email to your BackAgent. And as long as the attachment's there, I think it'll still throw it in and attach. So that would just make your life a whole lot easier and you just have to just keep tossing it in.
But we're still using transaction desk.
For right now,
So what did
she has she's talking with DocuSign, I think on Monday, and then we're gonna see if we can incorporate it because at that point you should be able to, when you're in your transactions, and it's asking you to do the documents, you can add integration, and Zip Forms I think attaches to DocuSign. So I think that'll be incorporated and we'll add that once we have it all done. She just hasn't, they're super busy, so she hasn't been able to get them on the phone yet to see. So for right now, Transaction Desk, and I think you can actually do the same thing in Transaction Desk that you used to do to send to Wolf Connect.
Mm-hmm.
Just put your BackAgent ID in there, and then just have it sent to you that way. Actually, let me do that.
So when we send it to BackAgent, do we have two emails? Do we have the one assigned to us? And then is there another one per transaction?
There is. So at the bottom of this.
All right, I remember where you showed that, yeah.
Boom, right here. If
So
you
that's
want
the
to send
one
it.
based on the transaction.
But if
we
you
wanted to just
I would just send it to
default
yourself.
to the one and then sort it out when we get in here.
Because it's just going to be more of a pain in the butt coming in because it's going to change every single time. So just have yours, and I would just have it saved as a contact. So I'm going to actually do that right now.
Yeah.
You save yourself as a contact, you're going to add, and I would say create a contact. I would call it, I'm going to say just general. And I would just put it as simply BackAgent. And then if my email saved, it did. And I would just save it this way. And that way, every single time, just the drop down menu,
Mm-hmm.
and you can just send it to yourself.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of the general overview. Like again, make sure everything that's in orange is done. And you can go and look at your active transactions, your closed ones. Now, if I think on your end, if you wanted to cancel a transaction, let's say it fell out, you can literally click cancel transaction, and then do you have a termination agreement, or did your listing just expire and you just want to cancel it? That's going to ask you the questions here, and then that way it won't show up on your active and you won't just keep seeing it. So if you have an executed termination, it's going to ask you for it, you throw it in. No, I just want to cancel it. That's there. Trying to think anything else that you'll need. You should be able to view a snapshot. This is just kind of like all of your information in one spot, and you can print it,
Oh, that's kinda cool.
which is kind of cool. It has all of you'll have your deadlines, who your contact people are. Maybe this is something you give to your TC if they're not in the system or whatnot. You can throw this in and print it. I think that's basically all I have. Any questions? It's pretty self-explanatory. It's kind of just a drag and drop and fill in and answer questions. For the most part, we just wanted to make sure that everyone knew if they're like, I'm not able to submit it, well, look out for your orange and see what the deal is there. And if there's something that is being required and you don't know, request for exemption. And that is just, you just go here, required, request exemption, and they'll ask you why, and you just put it in and we'll look at it. If it's obviously not a viable one, we're gonna kick it back and say, tough cookies, you still need it. But for the most part, it should be okay. I think that's it. Oh, if you have an LLC that you have your things going to and it's not going to you directly, make sure you let us know. I think they'll ask you on the funding sheet how you want to be paid, and if you have an LLC, make sure the LLC's in there, otherwise it's going to go just to the broker name of what it is. And if you have that LLC document, we're going to need just the LLC form so we know we're paying the correct people. But other than that, I think that's it. Yeah, and you can see your canceled transactions in there as well.
What do you mean the LLC form?
So if you have like your incorporation paperwork, your LLC, so that we know that you guys are the owners and then we're paying the correct people. Because I think that when we do our 1099s, it's going to be 1099 under whoever we're paying, which is the LLC. And we need to prove that it was you guys that we're paying. Other than that.
So that's in addition to the W-9 that we gave Joe.
Yeah, so I would say, yeah, if you're getting paid in LLC, I'm pretty sure that we're gonna need that incorporation paperwork at the end of the year or whatever, just to show.
Okay.
Because especially if you put the W-9 in the LLC, I'm pretty certain you're gonna need it. But if they haven't asked for it, but just have it on hand and just know.
Okay, no problem.
We might ask for that.
I even know where it is.
Oh, okay, yeah. But yeah, I think that's it. Pretty quick. What time is it? Really 1:45? Okay, maybe it wasn't pretty quick. I'm sorry. Sorry.
See, you were talking fast.
I know. And then also, yeah, just make sure. I know you guys are all using it, so it's kind of a moot point. But if you're wanting to go to a class, make sure you RSVP for it.